You're listening to I Love It When, and I'm your host, Mo. I'm a speaker, coach, and connector. You're in the right place if you're looking for some inspiration and you're ready to truly embrace who you are. My intention with this podcast is to help you see that you are so much more powerful than you realize. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of I Love It When. I'm your host, Margaret Smith. I go by Mo, and today is another solo episode. I have been told that I need to speak more, and I've been told this, and I have felt this for probably 20 years now. I'm 41 years old. So I've been doing it more and more and more, and recently I've been told that I should do more of these solo episodes and come without an agenda and really let it be unscripted. And so I'm not going to go without an agenda completely. I have an idea of some things I want to talk about in mind. And if it flows in different directions, I'm okay with that flow. I wanted to share a little bit more about the retreats that I do because I know a lot of people who have this inkling that they really want to come, but they don't know why. They kind of want to know more. They want to know more details. And so there are two different kinds of retreats that I do right now. And I would say that both are really for people who are looking to up level in their life in whatever way that may look like, sound like, be like. One of them is called Be You, the retreat, and the other one's called Unscripted. And today I'm going to focus most of my attention on Be You, the retreat that just happened in May 2023. If you're looking for more information about Unscripted, I did a full video about the retreat we had back in August, and you can find it on my YouTube channel. I go into detail about the agenda, what we did. I share pictures. I go through a lot of details, so please check that out if you're looking for more information around that. For the Be You retreat, I want to share, so I've been doing retreats since 2017. And the reason that and you might, by the way, see me, if you're watching this on YouTube, you might see me look off and up into the distance a lot of the time. When I am thinking and processing, my eyes go all over the place. Just a heads up for those of you that are watching me. And so I started these retreats out of a desire for something more. I have always been a fan and just felt most like myself when I'm in deep conversation with other people. And so I was working at the time for a real estate team in Bothell, Washington, and I was desiring more. I wanted to be the best that I could possibly be in my position. And at that time, I was the director of operations, and I handled a lot of different things in the team. And I knew, and I always know, that there is always room to grow. It's one of the things I love about being alive is that there's always something new to learn. I don't know everything. And to me, it sounds like an adventure. And so I knew that I wanted to spend time with people who held a similar role to me, but were in places that were a little bit further along in their journey. And so when I started this retreat, I intentionally invited people that I wanted to spend time around. And the essence of this retreat in particular was to serve real estate admin, because I had found that administrative staff in the real estate industry were vastly underserved, under-resourced, and yet expected to do so much of what's required from a business owner. And so I really wanted to serve the people who I felt like were underserved. And that is a little bit of my social work background, I think, coming into play as well. 93%, I believe it is, of people in administrative roles are female. And there's some lovely statistics around that you can find around average pay and all things like that. But today I want to go into a little bit more of my intention behind the retreat was initially to serve myself. And I say this because I want people to understand that my business is created from a place that serves me and feeds me. And that's okay. It's actually the way that I believe it's supposed to be. Meaning that the work that I get to do every day fills me up, fills my cup to overflowing. And I didn't realize that it could be like this. I come from a place of where I absolutely want to serve and love on people and do things to help advance the world. And I realized that I was missing a very big piece of that by not serving myself. I was exhausted. I was prone to burnout constantly. And when you know how you are, at least for me, when I am close to burnout, I start to get more irritable. I'm not as fun to be around. My body takes a toll. I'm not as kind to friends, family, people that are around me. And so I started to realize that by taking better care of myself, it was actually a benefit to everybody else around me as well. So my business is just that. My business is really to feed this desire that I have to know as much as possible about the world and about the people around me, and to constantly be learning and growing and evolve. And so that was the intention for this retreat. And I planned it according to what I wanted more of. And so that first year, I rented a VRBO that was local in the Seattle area, and I invited 25 different people from all over the country to join me. And then I found a few local speakers to come. One of those was Susan Scott, who wrote the book Fierce Conversations, Fierce Leadership, and Fierce Love. And then I also invited Elise Touche at the time, who was a life coach. And the agenda I set, this was the first time I had done this. And so I didn't know how exactly I wanted it to look. But when I am envisioning an event, I very much go through the process of like, all right, we'll wake up around 7:30, we have breakfast. And I think very much about how people will feel at different times during the day. And then I just gauge it from there. And so I knew that I wanted a speaker to come on each of the days. And I knew that I wanted time for us to dive into masterminding and issues that people might have in their own jobs that they want help with. And so I drafted an agenda, and I created the agenda with the intention that we would have time for expansive conversation. We would have time to get to know one another. And then we would have these speakers. And then after the speakers, we'd have time to really go through, okay, what did we learn? What did we get out of that? How can we apply it to our jobs and to our personal lives? Now, you might be like, Margaret, I remember you saying something about being shy when you were little. So this was very shy, and I still am shy. I'm naturally actually an introvert, and I really did not enjoy going to camp or going to places or events where I wouldn't know a lot of the people. And I happened to grow up in a family of quite a few extroverts. And so I learned really quickly kind of how to cope with that, and how to have conversations with people even if I didn't know them, and start the conversation at a lighter level and go deep. And so when I did this retreat, I knew that I wanted people to get comfortable quickly. And so I have everybody arrive usually on a Thursday evening. We have dinner together, and we do some icebreakers. And the icebreakers can be very uncomfortable for people. But what I've noticed is that when you do them quickly like that and right away at the beginning, it gets us to that level at a faster rate. And so for people that are traveling from the East Coast as well, like we have to get to bed early that night. And so my plan is everybody arrives, we do these icebreakers, we have dinner together, we have a little bit of time to talk about expectations for the weekend. This is another important part to what I do, and that is I create the safe container. And this is one of the most critical pieces that I think sometimes people forget about, and also maybe don't really know how to do. And so I'm very aware of people's feelings and emotions. I'm an empath, and so I feel things deeply, which means I can feel other people's feelings. If someone's feeling anxious or unsafe, I can oftentimes tap into that and feel it. And so we talk about expectations for the weekend, and then we create some rules. What are some ground rules for the weekend? I love using Brene Brown's exercise around creating a container. And usually what you do is you have Post-it notes, and you give everybody a bunch of Post-it notes, and you ask them 3 different questions. And I think one of them is, what do you need in order to feel safe this weekend? And so people might say, I need plenty of snacks. I need to feel like my voice is heard. I need to feel seen. Somebody had said at this last retreat, I need a warm hug sometimes. So you start to get everybody's input about what a safe container feels like. And I think it's really important also to talk about what to do when topics come up that are very vulnerable, because they do. I wanted this to be an opportunity for people to share things that they don't normally get to share in the work environment. And so, I'm not a therapist, and I make sure to say that up front, that if topics come up that I know I can't handle or that it's not my job to handle, I will ensure that people are in a safe space and that they reach out to somebody for help. And I want to give people a space in which to share things like that if they so choose to, because this line between work and personal that we've had for so many years, that was created by society and Western culture, I don't really believe exists. And so I think a lot of what we've been going through with COVID and all the changes that are happening in the world lately is blurring that line more and more, because we spend so much of our time during the day working. And if we're not doing something that fills us up, fills our cup, and somewhere at some place where we can truly be ourselves, then what are we doing? It's not worth it. And so I really wanted to create a space where people felt like they could share things, and they don't necessarily need the feedback. They just need a space in which to say it and say, hey, this is really hard. With the focus always being, of course, on solutions. So when we mastermind and we have a chance at these retreats to share something that we're going through, usually what I do is I create a way for that to happen that is productive and solution oriented. So you have 5 minutes to talk about your obstacle or challenge, and then the group has 10 minutes to give you solutions, ideas, toss around. Like, you have anywhere from 25 to 30 different brains in the room. Let's utilize all these brains. And that's something that I really love to share at these retreats, is that so much of my growth and so much of who I've become is due to the people that I have around me and the network that I've created and the people that I get to know. And that's all through being myself and asking questions and being curious, honestly curious about absolutely everything. I could be sitting in front of someone having lunch with someone who another one of my friends might say, this person has no value to add to you. And yet you're still asking them questions. Why? And this is because I truly believe that everyone has something to teach me. Every single soul on this planet has something to teach me. And so I may not be spending all of my time with this person, but I'm not going to discount what I can learn from them. So I bring that kind of energy to this event, and because I want to allow people to really create a space where they can ask all the questions, they can discover something new about themselves because they were allowed to explore. They were encouraged to explore. So that's how I plan kind of the creation of the container and the feeling of the event. As far as the speakers go and who I asked to have speak, when I first started that retreat, it was called the Pacific Northwest Operations Retreat. And it wasn't just for people from the Pacific Northwest. It was called that because it was in the Pacific Northwest, and I really wanted to create an event up in that corner of the US because there were so many events going on in other places around the country for admin that there was nothing up here. And that's really why I did it. I wanted high-level speakers. I wanted speakers that would freaking blow people's minds because, again, I wanted to create an event that was not something that admin normally get exposed to. So I wanted high-level speakers. I wanted a chef. I wanted a photographer who could give us headshots. I wanted an experience that was really going to elevate what we expected from our experiences. And by that, I mean, a lot of times when I talk to admin across industries, their expectations are very low on how they should be treated, how they are treated, what they deserve, what they're worthy of. And I wanted to shift that in a major way. And so that's part of why I asked Susan Scott to speak. That's part of why I asked Gary John Bishop, who wrote Unfuck Yourself. I really wanted to ask speakers who I thought might even be out, like they might not say yes, but I'm going to ask them anyways. And so through giving myself permission to do that, was able to get Gary John Bishop to come. I have had M.A. Mangles many years in a row now. Monique Hellstrom, who was the former chief of Simon Sinek, attended one year. Had Stacey Adams, who was becoming the VP of NBC, I believe is at the time, or ABC. I'll have to check on that. But I got some really high level speakers to come. And so that got people's attention, which was also something I wanted to do. I wanted to say, hey, I'm creating this event for admin, and it is going to be so damn good that real estate agents are going to want to come to it. And that's exactly what happened. Eventually, real estate agents started asking and saying things like, this sounds really cool. Can I come? And I had to say, no, this is for operations staff only. I have created something that is juicy, that is delicious, that gets people excited, that helps them to feel like, hey, this is special. I must be special. I am special. Because literally that's where it begins, creating that kind of confidence in someone to really understand that they are special, they are worthy, and they deserve to get something that makes them feel excited, that creates that excitement within them. And so that is how that retreat came to be. And so it really just developed from there. And the other thing I want to share as I'm going through this is that I want to share some tips for you if you're thinking about creating a retreat, or you've wanted to create a retreat, or you want to be a part of a retreat, because Now that I've been doing this for like 7 years, I get requests from people all the time. Hey, I want to come speak at your retreat? Hey, I want to come as a facilitator. Hey, would you tell me everything you know about how you started this retreat? I want to talk a little bit about the creation of the retreat. And if you're looking to do this with your own business, or if you want to be a facilitator or a speaker at retreat, I want to encourage you to do your own retreat first. These events are not easy. And you may have heard me talk a little bit about it with Justin Schenk when he had me on his podcast and I had him on mine. And he asked me the question of, what do you do when people come to you and say, hey, I want to create my own retreats? Like, what advice do you give them? And I was like, well, I'll walk them through usually kind of what I do. And I said, what do you do? And he said, I tell them, don't do that. Don't do it. And we kind of laughed because these events are very difficult. They're very difficult to start. And so I always say to people, don't expect to make any money the first couple of years. I made no money the first couple of years I put this on. My whole purpose behind doing it was to serve. And so my intention was not to make money. And I also knew that it takes time for something to gain momentum. And so by the time I got to the 4th year of putting it on, this was right before COVID started when I sold the tickets, and the tickets sold out in 48 hours. They sold out in 48 hours because of the 3.5 years of work I'd put into it. So if you're thinking about doing something like this, I want you to know that it's very much possible, and it's a beautiful thing to experience, and it's a beautiful thing to create. And if you want to speak at someone's retreat, or you want to co-facilitate, I'm going to encourage you to attend a retreat and then create one on your own first, because understanding the person who's organizing it, understanding their perspective, is a really important piece of being a part of it. Now, the way that I create them is I usually think first about the audience that I want to have attend, and then I think about the speakers that would be most influential or would really add value in such a way that I feel like, number one, I'm getting something from it, right? Because remember that these are something that feed me. And then number two, there's something about the magic of the different speakers that fits and is cohesive together. And so I'm always thinking about the intention. The intention is everything for me. The intention of this event, the intention for each individual attendee. I'm thinking about, what is my intention? And so my intention for the BU retreat this year was really for people to step away from fear and redefine different concepts in their life. Meaning, let's redefine what work looks like. Let's redefine what family is. Let's redefine what love looks like. Because oftentimes we get stuck in these old definitions. And we get stuck in these old definitions because of fear. Fear of change, fear of something shifting, fear of losing people, fear of whatever it might be. And because of that, we don't make the changes that would ultimately create alignment for us and happiness and joy and flow. And so that was my intention for the retreat this year. And that's my intention behind inviting Amanda Gale to come speak, and May Mangles, and then my partner, Tom Harrison. So with this retreat in mind, I had everybody arrive Thursday evening. And then Friday, we woke up, had a little bit of breakfast. I start off with a meditation or some breath work. And then I actually had the morning section from about 9 to noon on Friday. And I took that time to kind of really set the stage for Amanda and set the stage for Enmei by taking all the attendees through, okay, what's your intention again for this event? I'm constantly reminding people of intention, because I don't think people realize how important setting an intention is for every part of your day. Like even for this afternoon, I'm going to go into this afternoon with the intention to relax, with the intention to take care of myself, with the intention to be present. Intention is everything. It's everything. And so I set the stage for that and took them through a few different activities where they had some time to think about and identify different things in their life that they might not actually be happy with, but they haven't ever really stopped to think about it or really allowed themselves to feel those feelings around it, whatever it might be, a person, a place, something they need to do, whatever it might be. So that gave us some time to really go through, okay, why did I come to this event? What was it that pulled me here? What am I looking for more of? Do I want more peace, more happiness, more expansive feelings, more freedom? What am I looking for? And so we identified those things first. And then we broke for lunch. And then we had Amanda come in. And Amanda Gale is a multidimensional healer, and you'll hear her on my podcast here shortly. I'm going to have her on soon. You can find her on the web by just searching Medium Amanda Gale. And she is an amazing energy healer, and she also is really excellent at explaining what it is that she does and how energy works. And so she started off by sharing what she does. And then we talked a little bit about energy and how energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be transferred and moved. Meaning, if you feel a feeling in your body, it is actually possible for the feeling, I kind of think of it like a shape, to get stuck in your body somewhere. And in order to move that feeling out of your body, sometimes you need to dance. Sometimes you need to shake. Sometimes you need to do some EFT tapping. Sometimes you need to run. Like, there are ways to move energy through your body. And so she started off by sharing that with us and walking everybody through a bit more of her story. And then she went through each person and gave them the opportunity to ask a question, to ask for help with something, to feel energy. And that was a really powerful experience to see some people see some things really start to click as they began to understand just how powerful their energy is. And that brought me so much joy, because I have been feeling energy for so long, and everybody can do the same thing that I can do, that Amanda can do. You can feel that energy. And once you're aware of it, oh my gosh, you can direct it. You can set intentions with it. It's just beautiful. And so Amanda did an amazing job of setting the stage. Again, she kind of set the stage then for Enmei the next day. So Amanda was with us through dinner that evening. We had dinner together, and then she headed out, and then we had a little bit of time to talk, but I could tell the day is so jam-packed that by the time we get past dinner, people are like starting to pass out. So we were all asleep and in bed by 11 o'clock Friday night. And then we wake up Saturday morning. Again, I had everybody do some breathwork exercises, and then Enmei showed up right at 10, and we jumped right in. And Enmei started off by talking about the difference between fear and your intuition. And then she talked about the different kinds of intuition: the mental, physical, emotional, financial, spiritual. There's 5. And so she described each one of those and helped us to identify how we mostly operate. Like, I'm an emotional spiritualist, so I feel my intuition in my emotions, in my body. And that helps to add just a lot of clarity around how different people operate. And then people had time to ask questions of Enmei as well. They could be business or personal. And then at about lunchtime, we broke for lunch, and then Tom came in the afternoon to speak alongside Enmei and add his perspective around the power of play and intuition and how that has aided him in his life, in his journey. And I've done a podcast episode with him, so you can go watch a little bit and hear a little bit more about his story. But that was a great perspective to bring in there, because he really has shown me how you can really change and shift so much in your life through the power of energy again. So it was an amazing day, and the time flew by. And again, we got to dinner, had dinner, and then we had that evening to discuss a bit more and relax. And we played some card games and just tried to relax a little bit before going to sleep, because then we were already at Sunday. And we woke up Sunday and had a bit of a closing ceremony where we just talked about what are our biggest ahas and takeaways from the retreat and what were next steps. Because the other piece to this that I love is that the retreat is not just about the experience that you have at the house in that location with those people. The retreat experience actually starts from the moment that you say yes, and then continues after the retreat for as long as you want it to. And oftentimes you don't even realize that it's happening, but it's happening. So we're meeting actually to have a post-retreat follow-up meeting, because so much of the integration that takes place really has to do with, again, setting intentions and thinking about, okay, now how do I take what I learned and actually apply it back into my daily life? How do I make some changes and have the people around me really accept them and be excited for me and kind of be on this journey with me, even if they don't want to participate? And so I love the ripple effect, because I will hear from people sometimes days, months, or years after retreats have happened, and they'll come back and they'll be like, Margaret, you said this like 5 years ago at this retreat, and this is what happened in my life, and I cannot believe it. And that is just some of my most favorite feedback, is that you just never know what's going to happen by taking the time to stop and take stock of where you're at, reflect, and just make a little pivot, a little shift in your life. You never know what's going to happen from that. And so I almost love the post-event experience just as much as during the retreat, because the connections that are made with the people that come to this event, people who are coming to a retreat like this, whether it's BU or unscripted, they're coming because they are looking for a shift. And so even if people are coming from different industries, which is what we find at Unscripted, Unscripted is for any human who is looking to up level and have a spiritual and personal growth retreat experience. And people are coming from all sorts of different industries, but it doesn't matter because they're coming with the same intention of they want something to shift. They want something to be different. And they also love being around this kind of conversation. And so when those connections are made, you just have no idea who you might collaborate with after an event like this, how your network will grow, how your opportunities will grow because your network is growing. And that was one of the things that I loved about the BU retreat and why I started it was I was looking to expand my network. And once I saw the impact that it had on all of the attendees, it just blew my mind because not only was I creating more opportunities for myself, but everybody who was attending was creating opportunities for themselves and taking advantage of the people that were there and really investing in those relationships. So that's part of the beauty of the retreat is the unknown. It's the unscripted piece. It's the piece that you just know. And I know that when we gather in a space with the intention being for the highest good of all involved, good things come from it. Good, beautiful, beautiful things come from it. Beyond that, the other thing I would say is that with each retreat, for those of you that are thinking about planning your own, I start by picking out a date and a location and a time and all of that. But I oftentimes don't announce the speakers until after tickets have started to be purchased because I don't have any cash in a reserve in order to plan these events. I have to use the ticket cash in order to book the house, book the photographer, book the chef, book the speakers, all of that. And so that's something to take into account as well is that don't think that you have to have money in order to do this. You can do it with the ticket sales and you can also do it with sponsorship. So I have absolutely been on a journey of what it's like to collaborate and work with sponsors for the last 10 years. That first retreat, I got sponsorship from, I believe, is a title and escrow company and also our mortgage partner. And so every year I've had to ask for sponsorship. And I think what people don't realize too is like, hey, I'm not a huge company. I don't have millions of followers. However, what I do have is social capital, and what I do have is good intentions, and what I do have is a hell of a lot of follow through and follow up. I'm really good at it because I care about people. And so when I ask people to sponsor my events, for those people that know me, they know that they're going to receive from giving in this way. When people sponsor my events, I think of them and I have them on my short post-it note list where I keep people's names that I want to make sure to pass along or bring in more opportunities for them or whatever it might be. But I make sure that there is that give and take exchange. And so I'm not just asking random people to sponsor my events. I'm being very intentional with who I ask. And yes, I have to ask a lot of times. I think it was for 2018 for that retreat. I think I asked 45 different people if they would sponsor in order to get 4 sponsors for a total of, I think it was $5,000. And so I will do whatever it takes because I believe in this event. I believe in the outcome. I know what happens. I know that people's lives are changed. And because of that passion, you can't stop me. Like I will go until I find people who want to support this, who want to support the growth of individuals who are really looking to better the world. So if you're looking to create an event or retreat, think about sponsorship, think about asking for help, and don't give up after you hear your first 5 or 10 no's. Go until you find that first yes. And it's worth every single penny. So I wanted to make sure to mention that about sponsorship is that when people sponsor my events, I am always looking for ways to add value back to them outside of just sharing on social media and sharing through my newsletter. I find ways to honor them and make sure that they receive in return on top of just understanding that they have literally changed people's lives with the money that they've given. This feels very complete. This feels like if you're looking for more information around Unscripted, like I mentioned, I have that video on YouTube where I break down the agenda and break down what that event is all about. But if you have any other questions around retreats, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. Just know that this is one of my most favorite things that I do, and I love hosting retreats for teams and companies. I've had people reach out to me and ask for me to create and facilitate a retreat for their team or company, and I love doing that. So if that's something that you'd be interested in having me do for your family, having me do for your community, having me do for your team or your company, that is my jam. And as a leader in your company, one of the best things you can do is hire somebody to facilitate an event like that so that you can sit back and actually participate in the event with your staff, with your employees, with the people that you lead. It's a really important piece of it, and I love crafting experiences, and I would love to craft an experience for you. So if you have any questions about any piece of this, please reach out and let me know. And thanks so much for listening. P.S. The last thing I wanted to say is that this retreat, Be You, is now open to leaders in any industry. So it's based off of the membership that I have with Kathleen Metcalf called Be You Authentic Leadership. And we recently switched this leadership membership from being solely for real estate admin to being for leaders of any industry, because we realized that the content, much like the content that I provide in these retreats, is really for leaders who are looking to be and become the best version of themselves, the best leader possible. And so you can have any role in any business. And so I just wanted to make sure to mention that this retreat is now also opening up for leaders from across industries. So please keep it in mind for a future event. And if you're curious, hop on my newsletter list at iloveitwhen.org to get notified of the next event. Hope to see you there.